internet, welcome back. This is Sierra. If you guys are new around here, I'm Sierra and I'm an American living in Japan. Every week my husband and I and our son make a video about our life in Japan, lush being vegan, and trying to live a little bit more sustainably. If you click on this video, you probably already know what we're going to be talking about today, but in our video today we're going to be talking about our experience with the China adoption home study process. This is actually part 2 of the video. Originally when we made the video, it was about 27 minutes long, which is a really long time in my personal opinion for a YouTube video. So Mr. and I decided to split it into 2 videos. So if you haven't seen part 1 yet, in part 1 we talk about what to expect for an adoption home study and kind of what the process is like, and I'll put that up in the cards for you and also down in the description if you want to check it out. And in this half we're going to be talking about our personal experience with the home study provider being in our home, how we were feeling, and kind of what kind of questions they asked and the overall experience and what that was like for us. So if you're interested in that, please make sure to keep watching and I hope you guys enjoy. Now we're going to move on to the actual home visit part. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you were feeling like right before the home visit, and then we can talk about the home visit?
So as we talked about before, we weren't sure what to expect for the home study, so our nerves were high. We didn't know if they wanted to look at the whole house or what all was going to happen.
Yeah. Like, what about personally? Like, how are you feeling personally before?
I was okay. I wasn't upset or anything like that. I was just ready to get it done. Just like check off the list because there's so many things we had to check off.
Yeah, the home visit is kind of like your last step before your home study is written up, which is, in our case, it was a 15-page document describing our family with all of this information in it. So it's a big thing. Personally, for me, I know that I guess this just might be a little bit different because I knew that someone was coming in and critiquing the home that I was keeping and critiquing my housekeeping and critiquing the way that I set up my home. And, you know, guys most of the time get a free pass. They're like, oh yeah, his wife did it. You know, it's cool, it's cool. But like for me, I really felt like they were coming to evaluate my ability to run a home, which I guess in a way they kind of were. They wanted to make sure that I wasn't leaving poison all over the house and stuff. But they really are coming to see and validate that everything that you sent in your documents is true, and to make sure that your home is a safe place for a child. And so before even like at least I was panicking, worrying that we would make all these mistakes and they would decline us because we made mistakes. That's not exactly what it's like. I mean, they do come and they look through your house, but it's not as invasive as I was expecting. I mean, do I want to do it again? Not really, but do I want more children? Probably. So it's not an experience that you want to invite into your life like for fun by any means, but it's not horrible. So I guess you want to explain a little bit about what they did when they actually got here? Sure.
So we started off, we had to do interviews and more training. Even though we already read all these books and did this classes and whatnot, we still had more training to go through, and it was kind of repetitive. It was the same stuff over again, but the majority of the home study was actually interviewing us in different ways. It was interviewing her alone, it was interviewing me alone.
I wasn't actually by myself, which shocked me. Remember?
What?
It was we did my personal interview in our kitchen. You were just sitting there. You just couldn't contribute to the conversation.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think every organization does it different. But as he was saying, the first night we did a couples interview and we had child abuse training. It's a Hague requirement, so I get it. But what did they ask us? What are some things that I know that when I was looking for information on home studies, I wanted to know what they asked during the interviews. So do you remember anything they asked us during the interviews?
One of the things they asked was the statement of faith, because this was a Christian adoption.
Yeah.
So they asked us basically when you became a Christian, how did it go, etc.
Yeah, I mean, they just asked me, at least. I just shared my testimony because I didn't know what else to say. What else did they ask? Within the questionnaire that we did in the home study paperwork, they honestly, when we were in person, they asked us all those questions in person, and I swear they were checking to make sure we had the same answers. Because it was like exactly the same. What did they ask? They asked us like how we met. They asked us how we felt about each other. Like they actually asked us like, why do you love your husband? Why do you love your wife? They asked us about our relationship. And I had heard that they do ask about that in your home study. They didn't ask big details, but there's a couple things that I said that kind of like made her feel a little bit uncomfortable on purpose, so that she would stop asking about it because it was weird. So I just like said a couple of things that like definitely gave her idea that we were, you know, things were fine in that area, and she just changed the subject. She's like, oh, okay, next question. And I was just like, it's over. Yes. What else? They also asked us to describe each other and why we think our spouse would be a good parent, which I was not really prepared for. So luckily I was just honest.
Same here.
Like, one thing that wasn't really an issue for us, but it might be a sensitive topic for some people, is if the reason you're adopting, or if one of the reasons you're adopting is because you are having problems with fertility or you have a past history of fertility, that does come up. And I mean, it wasn't difficult or painful for us because fertility is not the reason that we were adopting. But if that is something that is triggering for you, it's something that you want to be kind of made yourself aware of, or at least let your agent know that it's something that you are not comfortable talking about, and they might, I don't know if they would breeze over it, but they might be understanding, you know what I mean? So, and they also did ask us straight up if we ever had a miscarriage, and we never have. But if that's something that's happened to you and that you're sensitive about, just know that they'll probably ask you about it. And then just basic like child questions that you ask people that you're going to take care of your kids, like what's your experience with childcare? If your child had this situation happen, like what would you do about it? All that stuff. They also asked us, what was it, like discipline we had growing up, and how our parents like dealt with us when we were naughty and stuff like that, which and whether or not we agreed or what we would do differently and all that stuff. So I think it was good. It was just seemed like a lot of really repetitive questions that we already answered that they wanted to hear us answer over and over and over again. I don't know, in some ways it almost felt like we were being interrogated. Like it almost felt like, yeah, like, you know how like when you're on trial for court, that's kind of like what it is. Like they're gonna ask you a question, but then they ask you the same question in a different way. Like they're not being mean, they're being thorough, which I totally understand. So that was the first day. And then the second day we had our personal interviews, which is when we were separated, which I thought that we had to be separated. That's not actually the case, but it's fine. Went to the hotel where she was staying for his interview, and then they came to the house, and then we did my interview, which honestly, like I was surprised that you were allowed to be there for. Basically, they asked kind of like more in-depth questions about our upbringing, and they asked us about our criminal history, and they asked, have you ever done this? Have you ever done this? Have you ever done this? And like, I know why they're asking, but like it makes you feel like you're a criminal. You're like, have you ever done drugs? Have you ever thought about doing drugs? Have you ever hurt anybody? Like, have you ever committed any crimes? Are you a felon? And you're just like, no, I don't think so. Wait, maybe I did. Wait, no, wait, why are you asking me this? You already have the paperwork on it. And then they asked each of us a lot of questions that could reveal past abuse, which like as a former teacher, I know what they were asking. They asked like, you know, if people had ever touched us inappropriately growing up. They asked the question in multiple different ways. They asked about it. They ever asked if we'd been like emotionally abused, verbally abused, physically abused, and all that. And then after that, they asked a couple of other like personal questions and how we felt about our adoptions and how like our families felt about our adoptions, and all that stuff. So the second half of the morning, they did another training session with us, which was basically like an adoptive parents boot camp training. They kind of basically went over everything that we talked about in our books, but like the Reader's Digest version. And as the person who was interviewing us has actually adopted before, they usually send someone who has adopted. And we went through a bunch of scenarios of things that people have said to her, or people will say to adopted parents, or situations that might come up with your child, and you kind of talk through like how you would handle it. And I don't think that's necessarily to help trap you, it just kind of helps you to be aware of things that are actually going to happen. One thing that made me really laugh, that she said that one of the questions was, what would you say if someone walked up to you in the grocery store and asked you like about your child's biological mother? And she said that one of the first things that happened to her when she had come home was they said, oh, like, I'm so sorry, like, that your child had to be adopted. Like, was his mother a prostitute or homeless? You remember this?
Yes.
Yes, and she goes, the last time I checked, I've never been a prostitute and I've never been homeless. Have a nice day, ma'am. And she walked away. Like, some of the things people say to adoptive parents,
they don't think.
People don't think, yeah. So one of these days we should make a things not to say to adoptive parents video. I think that would be funny.
That would be funny.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like here we have so many close friends here that know about our adoption. They just know better than to say some like that stupid crap. But people say a lot of things to parents. And then they also, we talked about attachment and like issues that come with that and stuff. And she shared her personal experience, which for us, at least for me, was really valuable. And then they did the home inspection part, which I know this is the part that a lot of you guys really want to hear about. The home inspection part is not nearly as scary as people make it out to be. Although you'll probably be crazy nervous because, I mean, they are coming to check your house to make sure that it's safe. what did they do? What did they check in our house?
I think we had to get a fire extinguisher, but we already had that. We knew that beforehand. But there's like this kind of like a pre-check of things you need to have in your home. They just check to see if you have those things like your smoke detectors, your carbon dioxide detectors, you have a fire extinguisher, you have proper exits, etc.
They also asked us, because like we do live on a military base, what would happen if there was like a catastrophe or like an attack or something, and we had to provide a good answer. Basically, we just rattled off everything that they told us during our initial like training when we moved here, and she liked that. And they also asked us to show them where we kept our cleaning supplies, because they wanted to make sure that it was in a place where a child couldn't get to it. One more thing that didn't happen to us, but I have heard can happen, is if you have bookshelves in your house or china cabinets, they might try to like shake them and see if they'll fall over, and if they will, they'll just tell you to bolt it to the wall. They didn't do it to us, I don't think, but that's something that could come up, especially if you're adopting a really tiny child. So that's, I think, everything.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I think they also tested like our hot water to see if it was too hot. Like when it first came out of the tap, I remember she did that in our bathroom. But it's to prevent burns, and if it was too hot, they'd probably just tell you to have it changed. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you think we should talk about?
You covered all of it.
Yeah. Whew. This video took a lot longer than you guys could even imagine to plan and make. You are welcome. But yeah, I think that's all we have to say. If you guys have any more questions about our home study experience or about international adoption home studies in general, please feel free to let us know in the comment section. Also, if you guys have any questions about our adoption or adoptions in general, we are going to try to film a Q&A video. So please leave us a comment and let us know what you would like to see next and what your questions are, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!